Hey folks, Ken here. Just thought I would do a quick update. So first of all, the ponds. Yeah, you can probably tell by the colour there. I've been treating with FMG. I did 2 treatments. So the story thus far, and I mentioned this in the last video, we're about to do a quick clean. It's actually mild now today. You can see the condensation on the outside, which means the external air temperature is warmer than the pond. I think the pond's around 10 degrees. So I've had this constant flashing, I'd say, for about 6 weeks, and during that time I don't know how many fish I've scraped, and I found up to 2 weeks ago absolutely nothing. Now what I found 2 weeks ago then was I scraped about 4 fish, and on 2 scrapes I found 1 trichodenia, 2 trichodenia in total. Not exactly conclusive, but I did do about 2 weeks ago. I found one it was back at the very start. I did scrape and I found 1 trick, again not very conclusive, but I decided to do a PP treatment, so I did that. Then a week later, back flashing again, and just scraped, nothing, and then, as I say, 2 weeks ago found 2 more trichodenia. Why I seem to have recurring trichodenia, and I don't know. I mean, the pond is clean. I do vac it at least every 2 weeks. The bottom drains I flush again every 2 weeks. There won't be much in them now when I flush them because I haven't been feeding with the FMG. So I've done 2 FMG treatments and just washing the fish during this week. They're not mad flashing. They're not, you know, every time they touch the bottom or queuing up as I've seen them in the past at the bottom drains waiting to flash. It's not that bad, but given the experience I had last winter, where I went into the winter with something that caused me, I reckon, huge problems when the spring came. I ended up with bacterial infections and lost, as I've said before, 9 goldfish and my oldest koi. So it was fairly disastrous, and took me probably the guts of 3 months to get on top of that. And then I got trichodenia, then I got fluke, then I got chilo, then I had nearly everything. So I don't know what to do. I think I do kind of know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a big water change now and just see how they do. I could do a 3rd FMG, but to be honest, trichodenia, it's not the hardest thing to nail, and if 2 treatments of FMG haven't got it, I really don't know what is going to get it. But the fish, they look fine. There's no one moping or doing anything, and they're reasonably active. I haven't been feeding them because of FMG. I'm going to put the hose on that and just clear, not that it matters an awful lot, just clear off the condensation. I'll come straight back again. There's a few scrapes on the bottom. That's just the algae from me vacuuming it last week. So as I say to you, I don't expect there to be anything on that in the bottom drains or anything, because I haven't been feeding. I will give them a bit of food now. So that's the pond itself. Other than that, covers are on, you know yourself, not an awful lot happening. But there, I found even with a cold spell now, like the pond went from, I'd say, a solid 12 for a few weeks down below 10. The other problem is with FMG, I'm sure some of you are saying, I am on the edge, like FMG, depending. I know the Kactoily stuff, it's still all FMG. Kactoily says no lower than 12.5 degrees. The one I'm using now, which is, what's that one, NT Lab, says 10 degrees, so probably is somewhere in between. But now says we're at 10. I'm not too sure if that one reads a little bit low. We might be a bit more, but it's on the edge of the effectiveness of FMG, which is possibly part of my problem. So you can see that blue there, it does stain the drum. You can see the other ones here, they are blue from FMG. That one hasn't quite gone that colour yet. The staining around the filter that you see there, it does eventually wash off, doesn't stay there permanently. The other thing I noticed as well, and I know Ross, that Koi guy, has said it, even though this is rinsed regularly at a fair amount of pressure from the rail there, there's still a lot of dirt on it, you know. It surprised me on the inside, which can't be helping the flow. So what I did was, on Amazon, and I'll show you in a future video because I don't have it yet, I ordered one of those battery operated jet washers. Now Ross said they're great. You just drop the hose of it into the filter, into water, and you can give the thing a good wash. You can see this one as well. There's just a lot of crap on it, which you wouldn't expect. It's all on the inside. Now I did use brick acid on that because I noticed my flow slowed down enough and not. That wasn't the brick acid, by the way. Watch a future video if it surprises you. It looks like alien got out through it, but you know, they are, as you would expect. I mean, they take out an awful lot. You only realise when I had obviously no screens in it for a week, the dirt on the filter was unbelievable, and there was even a load of algae growing around the wall of it. I think I showed it in a previous video, whereas now it's all nice and clean. Again, I haven't been feeding, so it's not that dirty. I've seen it worse. Secondly, the Kactoily, I don't have it on there. I don't know whether I can turn on the thing. What I've noticed with it is, if I hold that, I don't know what that does. I thought that turned on anyway. There is a way of doing it with the buttons. Kactoily have sent me a new sensor. So I told you the story with this. I put it in, and you can see the effects of the FMG in that as well. And I was just getting mad readings. The readings were jumping up all over the place, and like up and down. It was 5 point something 1 minute. It was hitting 10, you know, then absolutely crazy stuff. And then I tried to calibrate it, and I couldn't calibrate it properly. They give 2 sets of sachets of calibration buffer, and I ended up using both of them. So it's probably not calibrated, but what I did notice is I opened this up. So if you take off the cap, the batteries are under, I won't do it now, and there's 3 screws. So you can take off and look into where the probes are, and there was water in there. Now, I had a good look at the probes, and underneath it definitely wasn't coming, because there's some sort of resin or something. They put the probes in and then pour resin, so that's very waterproof. It was coming in from the top. So what I did was I let it dry out overnight. It was just moisture. It wasn't like deep in water. There was just drops of water. And when I got onto Kactoily, they asked me for a copy of the readings, and I was able to show on the graph that it was jumping up and down. So they came back to me after a couple of days and said their service guys had looked at it. They said they've seen wrong readings, but they've never seen such erratic readings, and their only conclusion was that there's water getting into the unit. So they've sent me a new one. Now it is on its way. They sent me a tracking number, but they come from China, and what they do is in Europe they send, well, for the EU anyway, they send them, by it looks, to the Netherlands in bulk, and then they break up the shipments there and send them. Now I didn't get hit with duty or VAT or anything on this, which surprised me, whichever way they do it. I'm not asking because I don't want to pay it obviously anyway, it's dear enough. So what I did was, and I got a bit, the seal isn't great on it, to be honest, and it's quite loose, and there's a temptation to over tighten the lid, and you know, that's some of the worst thing you can do with a rubber seal, because so what I did was I got the seal. I have some silicone grease, and I gave it a good rub in silicone grease, put it back on, and then I could sort of get a good feel then as to what was tight. I put it back in for a few days. The pH stabilized. Now I notice it's still climbing up. My pH, I know from, and this one is calibrated. I think I've shown before. It's generally sort of nailed on 7.5 to 7.8 or 7.5 to 8. I'll just put that, but take the top off. You can see there, it takes a while for that to settle. Showing 8.5 there now, just to give it a good rub around. Yeah, it's high enough there by the looks of it. Now, I think I'm getting on the Kactoily at the moment about 8.25, and it did start at about 7.8 and climbed up. Now, is my pH climbing up? It possibly is. There hasn't been much rain. I find my pH 8.4 now is a bit on the high side, I would have thought, when you leave it there for a minute. So anyway, it did stabilise, and then I opened it up a couple of days later just to check, and it was dry. So that seems to be the problem. Now, whether they have a newer design with a better seal or not, I don't know. I just did see on an ad this morning the block-based thing that's wired or Wi-Fi, the non-floating one, they've actually redesigned it, and it looks a bit like this with the probes without the big bulky top on it. So yeah, we'll see. So yeah, 8.4, that's definitely higher than I would have thought. Maybe that 8.2 is, I did manage to get a 2-point calibration on that. It recommends 3. What it was doing was, when I was trying to calibrate it, it kept going. It was showing, in the 4, it was showing 4. Then we got to 14, 4, 14, 4, 4, and it took, it was obviously there was water in it. That was the problem. But anyway, as I said before, Kactoily were very responsive when I contacted them, and just said, listen, we'll send you out a new probe, which is fine. Listen, shit happens, and it's might be partly my fault for over tightening that one, but I'd like to recalibrate it, but I don't have the solution, and I ordered a bulk of them on Amazon, but they shipped from China, so that was 3 weeks ago as well, and they're still not here. They're due next week. And I may as well, I'll double check with them, because I think they come pre-calibrated. When I get it, I'll ask. Maybe it comes with a 2 sets of sachets as well. Anyway, that's showing 8.38, which, yeah, it's not far off. I'm getting 8.2 something on the Kactoily. The one thing I don't think is right in the Kactoily is the total dissolved solids is quite low. It's showing around 120. My TDS should be up over, with hardish water, it should be up over around 200 anyway. But I think when I get to calibrate it properly, it should be better. But that's it. If you have any thoughts on persistent trick, let me know, because I'd be interested to hear what worked for you. I think my only option now going forward, if I do decide to treat again, is PP, because I'm sure it's due to turn cold again, and we'll be out of FMG territory until the spring. But yeah, it's just frustrating, as you all know, when you are scraping, and it's stressful on me and stressful on the fish, and not finding anything, knowing there is something wrong. Is it, it could be the pH, if it is rising, if it's up at 8.4, could be just irritating them a little bit as well. As I say, 2 trick is not exactly ringing alarm bells. Anyway, we'll see where we go. Oh, by the way, I was advised by a friend who helped me fix the drum. He was saying he has one of these, and he struggled, as a lot do, with the sort of tracking and the fact that you change the carbon, and within a few weeks you're over the 0.02 parts per million, which is supposed to be the maximum for koi. And he spoke to somebody in the UK, and they advised him to reverse the flow. That the problem is, I think, with us using these for koi ponds, is we use them for trickle, and they're not really designed for a trickle, and the water tracks very easy. That is, it creates a track in the carbon and doesn't really utilize the full carbon. So what I was suggested to do was to reverse the flow, and it means that the water goes down into the bottom and works its way up rather than going into the top and working its way down, and it creates a little bit of a moving bed. We'll see. I haven't tested it. I will test it. By the way, with FMG, I learned the hard way. You can't use the HANA test kit until that's well out of the system, because it just gives a mad false reading. When I used FMG there earlier in the spring, I was checking for like, oh God, mate, what's going wrong with chlorines through the roof? It wasn't at all. It's just that there's a blue tint in the water, and the HANA kit, it's based on the, what is it, DPD method. It looks for a pink tint, and I think it just throws it madly off. So I can't use the HANA kit. I can use it on the trickle in because that's obviously not got FMG in it, but the pond does. Right, I'm going to crack on. I'll only start warbling. Again, if you've any advice on trichodenia or what it could be, is it trick, is it pH? Presuming my pH is right, I'm reasonably sure that one is calibrated. And now I'm going to get on. I'll give the bottom drains a flush for what it's worth. I'm going to drain down about 20-30% out of the pond, and it's going to take the guts of to midnight, I'd say. I'll be up anyway to refill it because the water pressure around here is shite at the moment. All right, take it easy. Talk to you soon. Cheers.